This is another 3D Max lesson looking at how to work with planes, like a floor, making it into a bumpy floor. So it's called a displacement map, so it goes all bumpy. It's the sort of thing you'd see in a game environment or in a film with scene extensions or something like that. It's a really basic way of making something look a little bit more organic rather than structured out of a box. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll make sure I'm set up properly. I need a plane, but I'll make sure I'm set up properly. I need to have my edged faces on so I can see whether or not I'm going to have enough polygons to make my floor look like it's rough enough. So right click up in your viewpoint and go to edged faces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plane. Doesn't really matter how big. That's not going to be enough polygons. So as soon as you make it look over to the right, if you click off it, you can click on the modifier and it will give you the same options. I'm going to give myself 40 for each, so I've got a really busy grid. And then I'm going to modify this flat surface, this boring flat surface, with a modifier. So go to your modifier, second option at the top, click on the drop down list, and the one I'm looking for here is displace. So it's in alphabetical order. I'm going to click displace there, and I've applied a displacement map to this, so it's going to get bumpy. Now something I've pre-prepared is I've got this image which is called a displacement map. I made this one in Photoshop just using filter, render, clouds. And it generates that. It's on a 2000 by 2000 pixel base, so it's just a picture of something, but it's got black and white tones within it. You can make the black go down and the white go up, so it's going to become 3D. So all I'm going to do is on the right hand side, I'll affect the strength in a moment, but I need to go where it says bitmap, click on that, go find my map image, there it is, so it's now on there. Now if I look from the side, if I turn the strength up, so I can just grab that and move it up, I have an object that then starts to grow. So it's like this now looks like a little bit like a low poly game environment. 40 times 40 turns out quite nice. So if I zoom in and take a render from what looks down here, it's going to look quite nice. If I scroll up on the top, my monitor's not quite wide enough, but if I hit the little teapot with the lightning strike, the teapot's the 3D Max sort of mascot, it will take a shot of what I've got. This is my picture that I can save in my folder as a JPEG, wherever I want to save it, in my libraries, in my downloads, in my image, in my project folder. But call it maybe render 1, and as you go through you'll have them in order. So that's your JPEG that you save it as. And that's how you create your picture out of it. But that's a displacement map with a variable height system that you can have as a bumpy map. You can use displacement maps for anything. You can have you could turn a box into a building quite quickly and turn the building into a shed where it's all broken up and lumpy and bumpy by having this on it. You can also do things like cloth with it as well. There's lots of things on the modifier list that we'll look at throughout the next few tutorials, but this object here is a displacement map.